Welcome, everybody. I'm Mark Peter Davis, Managing Partner of Interplay. I'm on a mission to help entrepreneurs advance society, and this podcast is definitively part of that effort. All right, today we've got a really interesting segment. We've got Garry Tan on. For those who don't know that name, he's pretty famous in the startup community. He is the CEO of Y Combinator currently, which is a huge role. I'm sure everyone knows Y Combinator, but the function that Y Combinator plays in the innovation economy is unto itself an institution. There's something like 600 companies going through that program a year at this point, and it serves as really an important feeder and top of funnel for the venture ecosystem, obviously coming out of the Valley, but spraying companies around the country and beyond. So the conversation is fascinating to me because we're listening to Garry, who's kind of sitting at the origin of the pulse. He's right at the big artery on the edge of the heart of what's coming into the startup ecosystem and finding trends. So we talked through AI, macro trends, geography, and it's super insightful. Special thanks to Garry for not only doing the pod, but the context on this. He actually jumped on to give a talk at our annual meeting, which goes out to our LPs. And so this is actually that segment. He's allowed us to cut it and use it on the pod, which we appreciate. And I just think he's a super fascinating guy with a lot of insight. So I hope you enjoy. Garry, thanks for being on today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, let's jump in. YC is such a fantastic organization. I think one of the novelties for an outsider like Interplay is you guys have a unique view into a lot of what's going on at the pipeline, the top of the funnel of the innovation economy. Are you seeing any major trend shifts right now with regard to industry? Are there industries that are, more in the crosshairs of the new innovators that are coming out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess AI is the topic du jour. And then the surprising thing, or maybe not that surprising, is that we think a lot of the opportunity, especially for new entrants, is actually in vertical SaaS and vertical AI. So it's more a function of, what do people know sort of from their experience? What access do they have to different industries? I sort of call it spelunking in the pie of GDP, and
Right.
The more obscure and the more underserved, the better, because we are now in the age of abundant intelligence, and that wasn't true before. One of the ways that you can tell is, think about a Patrick Collison or a Larry Page. What kind of access to talent or intelligence do they have? I mean, in a lot of ways, they are the salient feature of, those Schelling points for smart people, is that they're able to take very, very smart people in the world and then put them into places of very, very high output and high income. Ultimately, it's a very smart system that we have. And right now we're right at the beginning of this moment where that's changing, right? Obviously, smart people are incredibly important and will continue to be, but they're in such short supply that now that intelligence can find itself in all sorts of things that would normally never get access to that level of talent.
There's a lot of discussion about startup team sizes shrinking because you don't need as many people to put a product in market or to scale the organization. We saw a little precursor of this a handful of years back, and it's starting to come up more often. Are you seeing team sizes come in more lean and mean to the organization, to the YC funnel?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a little bit of a shift that we're seeing on the startup building side. Obviously at Y Combinator, we focus on 0 to 1 quite a lot. And then, one stage right afterwards is we've got product market fit, things are rocking and rolling. And the way that people are thinking about building their businesses is changing. From time immemorial, there was this idea, especially from sort of the 2010s onward, that, it's time to blitzscale. I would venture to say that blitzscaling is, for vertical SaaS, I don't think it's happening anymore. Certainly there are still going to be marketplaces. There are going to be winner take all businesses that maybe have that as the salient feature. And that was common 10 years ago and even 5 years ago. But, we're sort of going into this other age where we're seeing companies go from 0 to a million with 1 or 2 people and a lot of AI. And then we're seeing, companies go from $1 million to $12 million a year in revenue in a single year with maybe 6 employees and a whole lot of AI. That's the big difference. You might in the past have had to hire the executive who hired the 50-person team to do customer success and customer support. And people are just not, they're opting to write better software that has better workflow. And, they're able to handle much larger customer load without, basically hiring heads to stay ahead of it. So we're sort of right at the beginning stage of that. The smartest companies are doing that right now. And it's a pretty wild time.
Yeah. I think it's no surprise that the early adopters of AI are the tech industry. And I know we're seeing it start to early days of bleed outside of it. Are you seeing, how is it integrated in your program or the current portfolio of companies in terms of the ways they're leveraging AI, maybe for internal operations outside of the product base? I know that it's reducing headcount. Are you guys being systematic about teaching people, hey, you got to be using certain tools?
Oh, we don't teach.
How is this getting framed?
YC doesn't teach. YC is, we pick and then we put them in touch with all the other people who are like way out at the edge of what they're doing. We've been doing a lot of unconferences, honestly, like YC is a community that, puts together the people who are all the way out there on the edge. And then they're the ones sort of sharing notes. Early on, our community discovered the classic thing you do prior to LLMs, like fine tuning, you don't do anymore for, you get 10 times the value out of prompting and evals, for instance. And so I think this whole space is growing so quickly that you almost have to try things and then see if it works for you. And so it's, basically the credentials don't matter. Like the raw intelligence of founders and their ability to be in the idea maze and just, try things and, you can just do things is sort of the mantra of every AI startup today.
Now, the adoption of AI is obviously happening very rapidly. When do you see it getting ubiquitous in Main Street, kind of permeated all the way through the economy?
Oh, I think we're in the early innings of that. Sitting down with, I sat down with Bob McGrew, who was a former chief research officer at OpenAI for many, many years. And, both of us sort of sat there and realized, actually we're just at, maybe the second pitch of the first inning of this very long ball game, which is great. I don't think that, if you look at GDP for 2024 and 2025, like the percentage that is actually driven by, AI and large language models in this age of intelligence is actually vanishingly small still. If you even look at how people are using AI, I think you'd be surprised that the retention is not that high for AI products. Like people are dipping their toe in, but it's going to take founders and workflow and UX and great experiences. And, it takes a lot more than a chat box for this age of intelligence to actually happen. It's, going to be a 10 to 15 year, maybe 20-year transformation. Just as, in 1996, I think you could easily find all the same types of people saying, the internet's going to remake society. And you have Krugman and people like that saying, no, the internet will not change the world. It will have the same impact as the fax machine. So you have exactly the same kind of pundits saying the same things. You have obviously people in tech who are, being cast as, hucksters again. But I think we're going to win just like we won, the techno-optimists are going to win, this round just like they did, the naysayer against the naysayers in 1996.
Now, you guys are Valley-based, but you're funneling in companies and talent from all around the world. Are there particular regions across the US and even internationally where you're seeing more activity?
Absolutely. I mean, YC, we take companies from all around the world, and the only requirement is to be in San Francisco for 3 months. And then there are tons of amazing hotspots out there. I mean, London, Paris, New York for sure. Even Denver, LA. I mean, you have smart people from all around the world coming to the Bay Area. And the wild thing that we have discovered though is it doesn't matter where you're from, but where you choose to locate your office, or being dual homed counts too. It actually having a engineering home base or a product home base or even a sales home base in San Francisco correlates to more than a 2.5x higher likelihood of creating a unicorn company. So, I think it's usually a mistake for people to totally decamp. It makes sense to have at least a toe or a foothold in the Bay Area, but obviously, these things are changing quickly, right? Like historically, people really loved the idea that they could hire lots and lots of people who were as talented as people in the Bay Area, but for 1/5 the cost or half the cost. I think a lot of those things are not mattering anymore, and being in the same place, in the same room, focused on basically amazing prompting, amazing evals. You're not building 1,000-person companies anymore. We're starting to build the WhatsApps and the Instagrams of the world are pure software network effects businesses that can drive billions of dollars in revenue without having like the blitzscale 1,000 to 10,000 people sort of scenario. And then I think most people look at that and they're a little bit worried. What does that mean for jobs? Well, it means to me that there are going to be 1,000 or 10,000 companies that each can sustain 100 to billions of dollars a year in revenue. And so this is, we think, the golden age of startups and vertical SaaS.
Are there particular skills or areas, I know you don't teach at YC, to your point earlier, that you see entrepreneurs stumbling more often than now that we're in this new era? Are there things they need help with that they didn't need help with before?
I mean, basically smart people, I think this is one of the big mistakes at some level is like, I think there's an infantilization of founders at some level. Like, the best founders are like, you meet them and then the week afterwards, like they've done 10 or 20 things and they've tried it and they're sort of learning from first principles all the time. There's no textbook for this. I think that there are certainly disciplines that you don't want to reinvent the wheel, like, your legal team, your finance team, even, depending on your go-to-market, like sometimes your sales team, like you don't want to, from first principles, rediscover how to hire an enterprise sales team. Though even there are lots of exceptions. But the real sort of cycle of being all the way in the weeds with users and customers, I mean, that's all that really matters. If you look on a retrospective on any venture portfolio, 90% of the companies that people fund, they end up failing. And if you look at the number one reason by far, 60 to 80% of those will have failed because they didn't make something people wanted. And so, that's, there's only one skill that really matters, which is, can you make something people want? And then can you do it very, very fast?
Thank you, Garry. Appreciate you being on.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Big thank you to Garry and the YC team. Appreciate you being on and sharing your wisdom. And for those who don't know, you should be checking out YC if you're early in the game. We're fans of theirs, and we'll catch you next time on the pod.